All right, let's talk about something huge in the UK, something that's been around for ages, the North-South divide. What exactly is it? Why should you care? And maybe the biggest question, is anyone actually doing anything to fix it? Let's get into it.
It almost sounds like something out of a book, right? An invisible line splitting a country. But this isn't fiction. This is real life. And this line, well, it's shaped everything from the economy to the culture and even how long people live for millions and millions of people across the UK.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. We're going to draw that line, so to speak, and take a look at the two very different economic worlds it creates.
So here it is, the classic definition. Picture this imaginary diagonal line stretching from the Severn Estuary all the way to the Humber. Everything below that line, that's generally seen as the more prosperous south. And everything above it, that's the less wealthy, more economically challenged north. It looks like such a simple line on a map, but wow, its real-world impact is anything but simple.
And really, this all boils down to one thing: money, plain and simple. On average, if you live in the South, especially anywhere near London, you're likely earning a lot more than someone doing a similar job up north. And we're not talking about a small difference here. This is a massive gap that completely shapes people's lives and the opportunities they have.
So that huge income gap, it has a direct knock-on effect on something called disposable income. Now, that's just a fancy term for the money you actually have left to live on after you've paid all the essential stuff. Your rents or mortgage, your bills, your taxes. It's the money you use for saving, for going out, for your kids' future. Basically, it's your financial wiggle room.
And having that wiggle room, that financial breathing space, it literally changes your quality of life. More money left over means you can afford better housing, you've got more options for education, even better access to healthcare. The data is pretty stark and even links to people living longer in the South. So you see, this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's deeply social and has some very real, very human consequences.
Okay, so let's shift our focus and head north for a minute. We need to see how this economic imbalance creates this ripple effect that causes problems way beyond just what's in your bank account. One of the biggest, most damaging results is something called the brain drain. Think about it. If you're a talented, ambitious young person in the north, you look at the job opportunities around you, then you look at what's available down south. And a lot of the time, you pack your bags and leave. And when that happens, the north gets drained of its best and brightest, its future. And this creates a really vicious cycle. Just look at a place like the Outer Hebrides. Young people head off for university or to find better jobs. The people left behind are, on average, older. That means the local tax base gets smaller, and all of a sudden there's less money for really important things, like schools and hospitals. It just feeds itself, this cycle, and it's so hard to stop. And the long-term damage here is just huge. You've got fewer people in the workforce, which means less tax money coming in. That puts an incredible strain on public services and infrastructure, right at the time when an older population might need those services the most. It's like a perfect storm of economic problems for the whole region. But hold on, because this isn't just a simple tale of poor north, rich south. Far from it. All that wealth and all those people getting crammed into the south, that creates its own massive set of problems. Let's call it the Southern Squeeze. So while the North is dealing with a brain drain, the South is getting the exact opposite, a brain gain. Cities like Cambridge and Oxford act like these huge magnets for skilled, educated workers. All that talent attracts more companies, which creates more jobs, which, you guessed it, attracts even more talent. It's this powerful upward spiral of growth. But, and this is a big but, that kind of explosive growth comes with a hefty price tag. Housing prices, they've gone through the roof, making it nearly impossible for a lot of people, especially young people, to ever buy a home. And to keep up with demand, developers are building on what they call greenfield sites. Basically, they're paving over the countryside. This insane pressure strains everything, from the trains and buses to the very fabric of communities. And another thing? It's created the super commuter. People are forced to live hours away from their jobs just to find somewhere they can afford. So every day you have this mass exodus from these commuter towns. This can really hollow out a place, The local shops suffer because no one's around during the day, and people are just too tired after their long commute to really invest time and energy back into their own community. It just weakens everything. Okay, so we've seen how complicated this is. The divide creates problems for everyone, north and south. So the billion-dollar question is, what is anyone actually doing about it? Let's take a look at how governments have been trying to tip the scales back.
Generally, it comes down to three big ideas: devolution, something called the Northern Powerhouse, and enterprise zones. Let's quickly break down what each of those means. First, devolution. The logic here is actually pretty simple. Who knows what a local area needs better than the people who live there? So instead of having every big decision made in London, devolution is all about handing power and money over to local and regional governments. The theory is they'll know exactly what their communities need to get things going. Next up, the Northern Powerhouse. You've probably heard of this one. It's a big, ambitious plan to basically create an economic powerhouse in the north that can compete with London. The idea is to pour money into things like transport, science, and business to make cities like Manchester, Liverpool, and Leeds into world-class places to invest and work. A big part of that is giving more power to regional mayors like Andy Berman in Manchester. And the third big tool in the government's toolbox is something called enterprise zones. You can think of these as special areas where the government basically rolls out the red carpet for businesses. They offer all sorts of goodies, like big tax breaks and easier regulations, all to convince companies to move in and, crucially, to create jobs for local people. And to see how this works in the real world, just look at the giant Nissan car factory in Sunderland. It's located in an enterprise zone. That single plant is an absolute engine of employment for the whole area, not just with the thousands of people who work there directly, but for all the smaller companies in its supply chain. It's a perfect example of how these incentives can bring in massive investment. So you can see there are definitely things being done. There's a whole toolkit: local power, big investments, business incentives, all aimed at rebalancing the UK's economy. And it's a question a lot of people ask, is it enough? Is it really enough to undo decades, even centuries of this growing divide? A line like this wasn't drawn overnight. So the really big, final question we're left with is, can you ever truly erase a line that's been etched so deeply by history? It's a tough one for sure.